welcome back. My name is Kathryn Soley, and this is 1-800-CALL-KATHRYN. And how about we light these candles and then we'll jump right in and hear from our first caller today.
Hi. Between eclipses recently, I lost my main source of income, and it feels somewhat intentional, like I kind of got pushed out of a position that I wasn't meant to continue on in. But normally I work through referrals, and I seem to be pretty out of that loop of influence or referral making at the moment. So I'm kind of feeling like I'm unsure of the direction in which I'm headed at the moment. So I was curious about some insight possibly around what my next move is or should be. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks for calling in. It sounds like there's some just work related, not sure what direction to go. But it seems like you have a good attitude about it, basically. You know, you're saying you feel like it happened for a reason. What did you say? It was intentional. That you got pushed out of a position that you weren't meant to continue. So maybe moving into like some new territory here. So let's shuffle these cards. Oops. Shuffle these cards and see what we have. I don't know. Do you guys think this candle is going to make it through the whole episode? I'm not sure. I don't know how much more time it is. I'm really surprised by how long these candles are lasting, though. They are beeswax. Side note. Candles can be really toxic, like very toxic for the air that you're breathing in if they're petroleum based. I have a bad feeling about the soy based candles. I haven't like looked into it thoroughly. And then when you combine it with, you know, synthetic fragrances, artificial fragrances and colors and all that stuff, I don't know. It's like, I feel it's sad because it's like you're doing something to make your space nicer, more relaxing and more peaceful, and then it ends up having like the opposite effect. So like beeswax is more expensive, but it lasts longer, it burns slower, and it actually does improve the air. So okay. So we have the Knight of Pentacles, the Eight of Pentacles, and the Emperor. And I'm laughing because this is so appropriate for like work-related reading. It's just so funny. It's, you know, you'd think by this point, you think you get used to these things. It's like this for my main thing that I do is I teach something called the Poisonous Plant Medicine course, and we do plant spirit communication, or it's, that term isn't the best, but it's a fascinating thing because even though I've taught it 19 times, level 1 of the course, every time we connect with the plants, I'm just always so delighted, so excited by people's experience of what they see, what they experience connecting in with the plants. And there's always this crossover. It's fascinating. Which, by the way, that course is currently available. I'm going to be switching to a pre-recorded version in soon. Hopefully it'll be available this summer, but the most recent class that I did was in January, and that recording of the class is available on my website now. It's a really cool course. It's all about psychology, our inner process, poisonous plants, their historical usage, their medicinal usage, connecting in with the intelligence of plants, or as I mentioned, plant-spirit communication. Yeah, it's cool. And probably a lot of you that are here have taken it. But anyway, why did I start talking about that? Oh, because it's you'd think it's the same thing with tarot, where it's like, you'd think that after giving thousands of readings, you're like, yeah, it doesn't matter. It's still delightful to me. It's still exciting to me. Like, yeah, these are all perfect and exactly what you would expect for someone going through a work-related issue. So, the Pentacles, we have 2 Pentacle cards here. Pentacles have to do with the element of earth, and they have to do with our physical world experience. So they have to do with the themes of like your work, your career, your finances, can also be your physical health, the way you show up in the world. But considering the question here, I'm going to venture a guess here and say that this has to do with work-related things. And then we have the Emperor, and he's very worldly. He's very like in the world, engaged in the world, thinking about his bigger role in the world. And then even the way that these cards are laid out, as you can see, we have on one side the Knight of Pentacles, and on the other side the Emperor, and they're both looking inwards to the Eight of Pentacles. And so when I do a reading, I don't do spreads, meaning there's not like a past, present, future positioning to the cards or anything like that, but I do pay attention to how the cards are laid out, how the cards lay themselves out, and how they interact with one another. And so having these 2 characters looking inwards onto the Eight of Pentacles is meaningful to me. So maybe I'll start by talking about the Eight of Pentacles. So when I see that card come up, I think about different things. One thing that I think about is just feeling a greater harmony and a greater balance in your relationship to your work life. So like you said here, you said that it feels somewhat intentional, like you weren't meant to continue on the path that you're on. So at this time, you have this opportunity, or you have this potential to look at, what do you want to be doing? What would make you feel more stable, more grounded within your physical world experience, within your work life? And there's different variations of that. For some people, it's very, very important to them to have financial abundance, not just that their needs are met, but to have a lot of money, especially at this time on the planet. That seems to be a top priority for most people is money. And there's a neurotic expression of that, and then there's just, you should be able to pay your bills. You should be able to eat healthy food and, things like that. But then also looking at with that Eight of Pentacles, what is your, not just feeling stable in terms of finances, but also just feeling like, yes, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is where I feel at home. This feels good. I feel like I belong here. I feel like I'm good at this. This is, what I'm supposed to be doing, at least for now. So you have this opportunity to look at that. Another side of the Eight of Pentacles can be, just a little reminder to just keep chugging along, keep doing what needs to be done, keep taking care of the details, taking care of the basics, not getting too worried about what's coming next, what's coming down the line? Where's this heading? Where am I going? Not really worrying about that so much, and just kind of dealing with what is right in front of you, and just putting along there. And so this is like the central energy of the reading. And to me, it's also the energy of it is to not worry about it, to not worry in a anxious way. You can think about it. You can think about, what am I well suited to? When I'm looking for a new position, a new job, maybe I need to be paying attention, especially to things that just feel right. I might need to hold out a little bit longer than is comfortable, perhaps. But, again, just kind of dealing with what arises as it arises without getting too caught up in zoomed out big picture kind of happenings with this. So that's in the center here. And then we have these two other energies that are looking towards that Eight of Pentacles. The Knight of Pentacles, to me, indicates that maybe there's something that you do have to offer, that maybe it's time to start bringing that into the world. And so this can look a lot of different ways. You have to kind of think about, what does this mean for you? For one person, it could be maybe you have like a skill that you want to offer. You want to start a business. Maybe you want to go back to school and hone, a craft that you have, or something that you want to switch careers maybe. Maybe it means doing the same kind of work that you've been doing, but working for a company that has better ethos that's more appropriate for you. I might have a sneeze coming. I'm having some spring allergies the past few weeks. I always forget. I forget every year that I get spring allergies. This year's not so bad, but I'm always like, where are these? Why am I sneezing? Where is this coming from? And then we have the Emperor here. And so this is just another, all of the cards have this sort of energy of just, I don't know if I want to say relax, but it's like, there's this feeling of like, you can do this. Tap into that more like mature part of yourself that knows that you can do this. Don't get worried, don't get anxious, don't get like, oh no, what if I never find another job? What if I can't do this? What if I can't do that? And it doesn't sound like you have that. Maybe it comes and goes, not having a job can be like, unless you have some kind of safety net, it can be a very uncomfortable thing. But yeah, not to get swept up in those worries, and to just kind of, to the best of your ability, tap into that more mature, wise part of yourself that is able to navigate this without fear, without anxieties. And so the Emperor, he's also looking, I think for your reading today, I think he's really just saying not to worry about it. Not to worry. And it doesn't mean don't do anything. Not worrying doesn't mean don't take action. It doesn't mean... I'm recalling something where I had a friend, I was working for a friend once who opened up a shop, and there were certain licenses that she needed to get for the business to operate, and there were just certain important details, and I was like, oh, maybe you should do these because you're operating your business. Maybe you need to have these licenses and stuff. And she would just be like, oh, the universe will take care of that. I'm thinking okay, the universe can't really file paperwork, so you have to file the paperwork. It's this is one of the shadows of hippy dippy kind of new age thinking. So I'm not saying to do that. I'm not saying to not do anything. Still, apply for jobs, take your next steps as they arise. But again, with that Eight of Pentacles, you're just taking one step at a time, taking the next steps as they arise, not worrying about necessarily where it's heading, not really getting attached to any vision of work life. So not doing anything, but also as you're working towards finding a new job, thinking about your career, as you're in this space, to not fear the outcome, to not fear the worst case possibility, to just trust that you can handle this, that good things are coming. Yeah, I end up saying this a lot, which I think is nice for me, but I'm not worried about you. I'm not like worried about your situation. I think you'll be fine. You'll get it figured out soon. So let's pull an oracle card here for some guidance with these themes going forward. Ooh la la, okay. Transformation. I love this one. I know I say that about all these cards, but it's always true. I really love the transformation one, and I don't see it much these days. It used to come up a lot more in my readings. I haven't seen it in a while. I love this one for this. So, very practical. The first 3 cards are just very practical, like just, okay, chugging along, doing what you need to do. It's all good. The transformation card brings in this other quality of like, you're going through a change. And like you said, you felt like you were pushed out because you weren't meant to continue on this path. And so this is now a time, this is an opportunity where you can shift, where you can transform, so to speak, your perspective, your relationship to yourself, your relationship of what's possible for work. It's an interesting reading, having that oracle card mixed. The first 3 are so practical. The transformation card, it is practical too. It's just, it's more exciting, I guess. So just stick one foot at a time, one step at a time. Things are happening, and you don't even need to concern yourself necessarily with what that transformation is going to be like. There are readings where I would tell someone to concern themselves with it, to start thinking about the future, start picturing like what is it that they want, but I'm not really getting that from this reading. I'm getting more just take care of practical matters, again, one step at a time. There's a transformation happening, and just let it happen. Okay, caller, that's what I have for you. I hope you find, the best possible situation for yourself, work-wise, and yeah, I wish you the best in that. So, okay, should we hear from our next caller? Okay. Oops.
Hi, Kathryn. I love your show so much. I have a question about the situation that I'm experiencing at the school that I'm going to. And I have a situation with a classmate where it happens to be actually a female classmate, and I am a female, and the energy feels really off, and I'm really uncomfortable with it. And they have this sexual energy that is just spilling all over the place. And on top of it, there's this weird energy where I feel that they're also trying to copy who I am as a being, which is, it's essentially impossible, but I don't know if you've felt that before. It can just be really uncomfortable, and I'm very sensitive, and they are very touchy, and they tend to also touch a lot that is not welcome. And I don't really know what to do about it because I love my school and I've talked to some people about it, but I don't understand if is this me or is this them? Is there a lesson here for me to learn? I like to just have some more clarity on the situation because I feel like the whole thing is very clouded. And I sense jealousy, but then I also sense this very weird, attachy, sexual energy, and I don't feel like that for them. I don't like women, and I have a long-time partner, and
I'm just very uncomfortable by the whole situation, and I don't understand why I am going through this with this other classmate who's essentially an acquaintance. So if you understood, I'd just like some more clarity on the situation of what the cards have to say. How should I proceed? Should I continue to protect my energy? Or what are some things that I could do to focus on something else and kind of call my power back and not be spending so much precious energy ruminating about it or feeling unsafe about it, or so thank you so much.
Ooh, okay. Thanks for calling in. I have a lot of thoughts. This is another one of those things where it's like, all right, Kathryn, just do the reading. It's hard to sometimes, you want to, I try to always like separate my personal thoughts and opinions as much as possible. Obviously, it's always going to be filtering through me, but I try to make it as, my readings as impersonal to me as possible. So it's a different thing than if like we were just talking as friends and I would be like telling you what I think about this. Okay, let's see what we have for you. Okay, so we have the Queen of Swords, the Tower, and the Four of Cups. So, I mean, right away I'm like, okay, we have the Queen of Swords. Setting a boundary is probably important. In like a gentle way. Like, you don't have to even let her know that you're setting a boundary, but you can, especially since this is upsetting you so much. It said, like you said at the end here, what did you say? That you were spending a lot of energy on the situation, ruminating and feeling unsafe about it. And so, I think people in general, especially like now, but I think women also especially, we're kind of conditioned to, and it comes from a good place, but we're conditioned to be nice to everybody and to see everyone as, I don't know how to say it, but there are times though where some people are not well psychologically, and it's good to set a boundary with them, especially if they're just an acquaintance. Like, it's not like your mother or your brother or your child or something where you have more of maybe a responsibility to intervene in some way. But if there's someone who it feels like there's something, I get the sense that they're just kind of invading your space in multiple ways. Like you're saying, there's something that feels kind of sexual about it. They're touching you in an unwelcome way. They're copying your personality. They're kind of like, there's something where it feels a little icky, like they're invading your space in multiple ways. And So you may find yourself having some conditioning around like, be nice to everybody, you know, and again, there's like wisdom to that. Like I want to be nice to everybody. I want people to be nice to me. And I think we're living in a world now where people are not always nice to others. But sometimes, you know, you need to like set a boundary. And so we have the Queen of Swords here, and swords have to do with our mind and the way that we communicate, the way that we think. But the queens have like a softness to them. They're this kind of feminine energy. And so when I think about this situation, I think about maybe just, you know, you're even talking about like leaving your school. Like it sounds like this is maybe like kind of a big deal for you. Is it possible to just pull away from this person, to kind of give them the cold shoulder, you know, to not necessarily say you don't have to directly tell them I'm not talking to you anymore, like you're being weird, you know, you might, it depending on the person, maybe you do say something like that, like you're making me uncomfortable, you know, if she's touching you, I think it's appropriate to be like, you know, this touch is making me uncomfortable. But you know, a lot of times people will get the hint if you kind of pull away from them. Energetically pull away from them. Sometimes they don't, and that's when you have to set a stronger boundary. And then we have the Tower card here, and you know, the Tower card can come up when we're going through something really difficult, and I think that this might be a bigger issue for you than maybe you fully recognize, because on the surface, you know, the thing that you're explaining, in some ways you might look at it as like, oh, this isn't that big of a deal, like, or I shouldn't be that upset about this. I kind of get that sense from what you're talking about too, but it seems like it's affecting you in a big way. And with the Tower card, you know, I get curious, you know, what was your relationship with your mother like growing up? Was there, or with, you know, I'm going with mother because this is another female, but, you know, it could be father, sister, brother, best friend, you know, any kind. Was there anything in your past where you felt like your boundaries were violated, or you felt like there was merging or enmeshment that felt unhealthy? This could be triggering that. It could also be there's an opening for it, because there's already like there may already be a wound that you have around this, so there's an opening for her to get in there, so to speak. Yeah, but the Tower card can be, you know, it can be a difficult one. It's a card that I had come up a lot during my Saturn return. I don't know how old you are if you're in the midst of Saturn return stuff, but I often see the Tower card coming up during Saturn return. I'm currently having my Saturn square Saturn, and I pulled the tarot. I don't read for myself that often these days, but I gave myself a reading and the Tower card came up again. But it's when we're going through some kind of change in our lives, a change in our sense of self, our sense of identity. And so maybe, you know, possibility could be, you know, maybe you have this sense of self, this sense of identity that's very like, maybe too nice to people. I don't know. Maybe overly compassionate, overly empathic. And you might need to be someone now who sets boundaries, and, you know, it's to take care of yourself, because it seems like I mean, the idea of like leaving your school, or that you're thinking about this all the time, it's making you very uncomfortable. I think it might be affecting you maybe again, like more than you realize. And then the Four of Cups, can come up. Cups have to do with our emotions, and the 4 is a very grounded number. So the 4 of Cups coming up just tells me that there's a need to have more like an emotionally grounded perspective on this. The other possibility with all of this going on is that, I mean, you could be blowing it out of proportion. You could be having like all of this fear and anxiety coming up, and maybe it is being blown out of proportion. That can certainly happen. This is like a bias of mine, but I definitely have a tendency to, especially with women, to encourage them to trust, you know, your feelings that you're having, like these kind of gut feelings that you have. If you feel unsafe in a situation, to trust that, because again, like a lot of women, we get conditioned to just be nice, and then you can find yourself in dangerous situations sometimes. Okay, let's pull an oracle card for some guidance with these themes going forward. Oh, okay. Gentleness, another wonderful card in this deck. So, I'm going to say in this instance, it's to be gentle with yourself. If you've been hard, I get this sense too, you know, listening to your call, that you might be being hard on yourself in this situation. Maybe feeling like guilty, feeling bad that you feel this way, maybe feeling like hard on yourself. Why is this bothering me so much? Why am I feeling this way? But to just be, you know, gentle with yourself, and it's just a part of like growing, a part of learning, a part of moving through life, moving through, you know, learning how to navigate things that maybe you didn't learn how to navigate earlier in life for various reasons. And yeah, I think, you know, you asked if I've had things like, I have had somewhat similar things. I think a lot of people go through things like this. This sounds like maybe it's like a next level kind of thing, but yeah, I've definitely had people in my life, especially because I have somewhat of an online presence, that people project things onto me. They think I'm something that I'm not. They think they understand me, but they don't. They're only seeing, you know, this one side of me. Or sometimes people take, you know, a class with me, and then I'll see my words through their writing or through their, you know, their business and things like that. Or yeah, it's not something, something that would happen more in high school, and I haven't really had too much of that these days. But yeah, it can be like an unsettling thing. I think, like I said, I think a lot of people have had things like that happen before, where someone kind of just is not respecting your space, or just merging too much, like taking on. I've had a lot of times people kind of taking on my sense of humor, like specific jokes that I make, like I'll hear them making with someone else, and I'm kind of like, okay, it's a weird thing. So yeah, overall, you know, I'd say just a boundary needs to be set. You know, you can do it in a nice way. You don't, like I said, you don't even necessarily have to let her know you're setting a boundary. The boundary has to come from within. The other thing that I'll say too, because boundaries are actually one of my biggest issues that I've had to work with through my life, and it comes from early childhood experiences where I had to enmesh. I had an enmeshment, and so it made it hard to set boundaries with people later in life. I didn't understand how to like have my own space, and when you combine that with someone who's very, you know, open in other ways, and I can sense how people are feeling, it can be a difficult thing, you know. But so you might look at, has there been early, or were there early childhood experiences where you learned that you weren't allowed to have boundaries in some way. So you might want to pay attention to that as well. So, okay, caller, that's what I have for you. And I'm actually going to check. I'm paranoid. I think that the video might have frozen. Let's see. Okay, no, it was not frozen. But, make sure this mic's okay. I've had so many times I've been like shooting videos for my Patreon for like 6 years now, and I'm scarred from having, things like where my mic is bumping against something loudly the whole time, or the wind is super loud, or I don't know, just different things. And now anyway, that's very interesting, Kathryn. Okay, let's hear from our last caller.
Hi, Kathryn. I've been trying to do some readings on my own around love and relationships after having quite a few traumatic experiences with past lovers, either being abusive, self-harming, or suicidal. And I had settled into what I thought was a new relationship for this past year, and had my partner moved in with me until I found out they had an addiction problem, and kind of had resolved after finding out and catching them numerous times that I really can't forgive enough to retain the relationship we had. And after losing their trust, I agreed that they can stay until they find a new place. But our relationship had started as an open one, and I would like to go back to that. However, the trust is still not there, and my heart has moved on to somebody else who I'd been talking to over a year, and they seem to have some more interest. They seem to be interested in me, but then they got a new job, and have been silent, radio silent since. So I don't know how to take it. I don't know how to read the last card that I pulled. Was like a Four of Pentacles, and trying to see it as a reminder to focus on my son and my new business that I'm trying to start. But it leaves me wondering how I can attract the love that I want outside of work and my family into my life. So thank you so much.
Okay. It's another one where I'm like, let me tell you what I think. No, Kathryn. We're gonna see what the cards have to say. But yeah, having just some relationship issues. You're saying you have quite a few traumatic experiences with abusive, self-harming, or suicidal people. You had a good new relationship, but then they have an addiction problem. It sounds like there's just a lot of issues. And then there's another person that you liked, but then they got a new job and they're not talking to you anymore. It sounds like there's just a lot of issues in this area of life. Oops. So let's see what we have for you. Okay, so we have the Moon, the Knight of Pentacles, and the Queen of Wands. So there's two kind of energies that I'm seeing in the reading. One is this Moon card, and then the other is this combination of the Knight of Pentacles and the Queen of Wands. The Moon card is this invitation to look inwards. How do you continually find yourself in these kind of relationships with people that are abusive, self-harming, they have addiction problems, suicidal, they ghost you completely when they seem like they show interest? It sounds like there's something that keeps drawing you towards partners that are not available, that are, not available is like one way of looking at it, but also are hurtful or like harmful to you in some way. And so with the Moon card, the Moon card has to do with our deeper emotions. They have to do with emotions that are under the surface, subconscious, unconscious. So it's not, the things that are at the surface that you're fully conscious of. It's not like, well, I'm attracted to these partners because, they're fun, they're artistic, they're funny, they're, handsome, whatever, that's, or we have this in common, that's kind of what's on the surface. But what's under there is, we all are the people that we're attracted to, whether we're conscious of it or not, will stem back to, early messages that we got about love in life, early messages that we got about relationships in life, early relationships that we had with parents, with parental figures. All of these things will color our perception of what love is, what relationships are. And so if there's trauma from the past, if there's wounding, if there's undesirable belief systems or conditionings that you have from early life that you think could be affecting how you look for love, how you look for partners, the Moon card is this invitation to really go into that. It can be good to go into therapy about it, and therapy now, sometimes I just can't believe what it is, what it's become. It's 99% of therapy seems like it's just garbage. It's terrible. I don't understand how that happens. But if you can find someone that's not just gonna affirm, that's not just going to coddle, that's not just going to label diagnostically, here's your label, there's nothing we can do about your label, that's just how you are, but someone who's actually gonna go into it with you, go into these difficult spaces and help you navigate those spaces, so that you can actually feel these things and understand them and move through them. That could be helpful with this. And if that feels out of reach at this time, or something that's not wanted, even just journaling and kind of reflecting back on, what was the early messaging that I got about love? What was the early messaging that I got about relationships? Even having an open relationship, sometimes, I'm not saying all the time, but sometimes that can also be a way to avoid being vulnerable, avoid being hurt, avoid having commitment, so that you're not rejected. So I would be, based on the other things that you said, I would be curious if that, wanting open relationships could also be, a part of this same system that ends up in relationships with people who have a lot of issues and who are ultimately unavailable and unable to give you the love that you are seeking. Because you even say at the end here, how can I attract the love that I want in your life? So there is, this desire to be loved and to have love. So I think that looking into that Moon card, looking into what's down in there, what's down in the muck, what's down buried under there, will hold a lot of the keys, a lot of the answers there. And then the other kind of energy that I'm feeling here we have the Knight of Pentacles and the Queen of Wands. They feel somewhat combined to me. They're also both looking to the right, which, as I've said before, I don't do spreads in my readings. Like, there's not a past, present, future positioning to the cards or things like that. But I do look at how the cards lay themselves out and how they relate to one another. And when the characters are looking to the right, to me, it's like looking to the future. So you can look at, looking towards the future. What are the qualities that you would want in a spouse? What kinds of, how would they treat you? What would your relationship look like? How would you treat them? How would love be expressed? I guess it varies person to person on how you might like to do this, but for me, I think it would be less important, like their exact personality traits or their hobbies or their interests, beyond just like something that's very foundationally important to you. Like, for example, if you were religious, you would in all likelihood like a spouse who shares the same kind of religious values that you have, for example. But just generally thinking like, how would this relationship make me feel? What kinds of qualities would this person have? Would they be generous? Would they be loving? Would they be open to communication? Would they, you'd probably, it sounds like you would want someone who's not engaging in these harmful activities. You would want someone that's really available, who's ready for a relationship, who can appreciate you and love you exactly as you are. And the Knight of Pentacles and the Queen of Wands are telling me this feels important, so I hope you hear this part. Don't settle. Okay, don't settle for someone who doesn't really want to be with you or who is incapable of being with you. If that's something that you're used to, if that's something that, maybe you had, again, like going back to that moon card from an early life experience, or if that's something that you've had repeated through romantic relationships throughout your life where you weren't appreciated, you weren't loved, people didn't make space for you in their lives, stop settling for that. Hold out for someone who's going to love you and wants to be with you and is healthy psychologically, right? And if you're noticing that there's this tendency or this draw to just get into relationship after relationship after relationship because it feels scary to be alone, or it feels, the feelings that come up, the thought of not having someone there, that's something to explore too, because I feel like although it might be initially uncomfortable to be alone for a period, and it doesn't mean you have to, you could meet your ideal partner tomorrow. Like, you don't know. I'm not saying you have to set a certain period of time where you don't go into a relationship at all. But I'm going to say that again, just don't settle. Stop settling. I think you're settling for these people because maybe you're afraid of being alone, or you think you don't deserve anything better. And if that's the case, then maybe reevaluate that. So let's pull an oracle card here for some guidance with these themes going forward. Nice. Okay. Individuation. Okay. On theme. I think this is fitting. This seems appropriate. So yeah, this is another piece, who are you outside of relationships? Are you always in a relationship? Have you had periods where you're single? Have you had periods where you're single and not trying to find a relationship? Do you have a tendency maybe to find people like this who you've been in relationships with because you want to save them? Do you have like an identity built around being like the savior, the empath, the kind person, the loving person, the one who sees, you know, oh, other people don't see the goodness in this person, but I do. Like, I'm gonna save them, I'm gonna fix them, I'm gonna love them. And you're giving, are you giving your love to these people that really you should be giving to yourself, or that you're longing to receive from another person, or that you're feeling like a loss of that in your own self? And again, when we get into the moon card, these sort of themes, it can take a while for us to recognize them, because they are under the surface. You know, that the word subconscious, unconscious, they're not conscious, they're below. And so these things that I'm saying may be like, oh, I don't think that's true, and maybe it's not. But, you know, give it some time and see how it all shakes out. See how these themes end up showing up. But I think the main piece here, when I look at this reading, well, I guess just to summarize, you know, look at past early life conditionings. You know, what did you learn early in life about love? What did you learn early in life about relationship? Did you feel loved? Did you feel like you had love modeled to you in a healthy, appropriate way? Do you feel lovable, truly? Like, not just your mind, like, yeah, of course I'm lovable, but like really in your being, do you feel that? Not a lot of people do, honestly. I think we don't live in a culture that really helps us love ourselves unconditionally. And then, you know, stop settling for people that are not going to really give you what you need. And, you know, looking at certain habits that you could have in relationship to trying to save people, merging and meshing with people. That could also be something from early life that could be impacting this experience. So I hope that this is helpful. I know maybe it's not exactly what you're expecting, but I feel for you, and I feel, yeah. Okay, caller. I hope that this is helpful, and I really do wish you the best on this journey, because it's hard out there. It's hard being human and in the world at this time when everything is so crazy and broken and hard. So, okay. All right, guys. I'm going to do a card of the day. And the card of the day is for everybody, not just for the people that called in. And this card of the day, it's for you today, whenever this day is that you're listening to or watching the show, whether it's the day it comes out or 5 years from now. And before I pull that card, I'll just let you guys know that I do offer readings, private one-on-one readings through my website. I offer them in two forms. One is a personalized monthly tarot forecast. So each month, this is the most popular offering that I have, and it has been the most popular offering for like the last 6 years. And basically every month, around the first of the month, you'll get an email from me with a recording where I give you a reading of things to keep in mind for you this month, and it's personalized to you. It's not collective, although on my Patreon I do put out collective tarot forecasts each month, but these are personalized ones. The other way to get a reading from me is you can, if you have a specific question, you can also get those through my website. If you want to learn how to read tarot yourself, I have hours and hours and hours and hours, many, many hours, like 30 hours or more of video classes on tarot on my Patreon. All of those hours are available for $5 a month. I have an Intro to Tarot series that's 4 parts. I have a class on every single card in the major arcana. I have classes on the suits and classes on numerology. And there's also, on the Patreon, there's also classes about all sorts of other things: herbalism, poisonous plants, plant spirit communication, herbal aphrodisiacs, herbal smoke blends, an introduction to symbolism, Book of the Dead, all sorts of things are on there. And those are all of those video classes. There's 90 plus video classes, like, 100 and something hours of videos on my Patreon. Those are all available for $5 a month. And at that $5 a month, you also get access to that monthly collective tarot forecast that I mentioned. Also, through my Patreon, I do offer monthly herbal care packages that, if you're within the US, you can get those delivered to your door every month. And if you get that, you also get all the videos as well. And is that it? That's all my offerings. Oh, I guess there's also the poisonous plant medicine course, which is, my main offering in life. And that class is available now for purchase through my website as well. And yeah, keep calling into the show. I need people calling in all the time. And yeah. Okay, guys, I'll shuffle these cards. Let's see what we have. It's been nice, lately I noticed the people calling into the show, there's just, every call is like different. Even though, a lot of them will have to do with relationships or work or something, like each call is so unique in its own ways. Oh, and by the way, like this video, subscribe to my channel, leave comments. I don't know, it helps the algorithm. I would like more people seeing the show. Share about it on social media. If you have friends that you think would like it, text it to them, share it with them. Yeah, I love doing this, and I hope it continues to grow. All right, let's see our card of the day here. I think this has been our card of the day, like multiple episodes. Okay, the King of Cups. Our old friend, my old friend, the King of Cups. The King of Cups, he shows up in so many of my readings. So he started showing up at the end of 2019 in my readings. He probably shows up the most out of any card in the deck, and I think there's a reason for that. It's because at this time, we collectively need emotional maturity. We need emotional stability. We're in a time where there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of chaos, and through social media, through corporate news media, through television shows, through movies, there's this major encouragement for everyone to be very emotionally immature, to be reactive, to be impulsive, to be narcissistic, to be self-oriented, to be pointing the finger at other people, to be yelling, to be reactive, to basically act like childlike and not act like a mature adult. And that's distressing to me and probably to many of you. And then at the same time, we're dealing with a world that's very, like I said, chaotic, uncertain, aggressive, scary, violent, idiotic. And for a normal, sane person, that's going to trigger some deep feelings. That's going to trigger feelings of depression, anxiety, hopelessness, helplessness, fear, all sorts of things. And it seems like a normal response. There's something, I think it's maybe Kurt Vonnegut or someone said something like insanity is a sane response to an insane world. Something, I'm really like, it's something in that realm. Madness is a sane response to an insane world, something like this. But when the King of Cups comes up, he tells us it's okay, the King of Cups, whatever waves, these highs and lows, these ups and downs of our emotional realm. I feel great, I feel horrible, I feel high, I feel low, I feel happy, I feel sad, I feel optimistic, I feel pessimistic. He rides these waves, he lets himself feel his feelings, but he doesn't become identified with them. He doesn't believe he is the wave. He doesn't say, I am depressed. He says, I'm feeling depressed. Big difference. He doesn't repress. He doesn't push the wave down. He doesn't try to push it away. He lets himself feel the waves, no matter what's going on around him. Whatever chaos, whatever's going on, whatever things internally and externally are happening, emotions being triggered, different feelings being triggered, he maintains a certain stability, a certain groundedness, a certain maturity, a certain ability to face things, to not avoid them, but again, to not become attached to them and not become identified with the feelings. Because the feeling is important. It's important information. You can do a lot with an emotion. You can work through things. You can become a healthier, saner person through working with your emotions. But emotions are temporary. They're passing things. They're not to be clinged to. They're not to be identified with. They're just passing through. So if you find yourself in a point in time where you're feeling amazing, you're feeling great, good, feel that. Recognize though that a low will probably come at some point again, and that's okay. And if you're in a low point, recognize you can't stay there forever. You can try. There's going to be good days at some point. And so, feel the low while you're there, but recognize that it's not who you are and it's not permanent, and there will be better days ahead. So, love the King of Cups. He's really like my my buddy at this point. He shows up so much. Good reminder for these times. So anyway, thanks everyone for watching. Keep calling in. If you ever called in and your question wasn't answered on the air, chances are it was just because there was an issue with the sound or something. I've had a few calls lately where the call is like 2 minutes long, but there's no sound, so there's nothing going on, or someone starts talking for like 10 seconds and then it cuts out, and so that could be why it hasn't been on. I haven't turned down a ton of calls, so at this point, if you have a question, you have a really good chance of getting it answered on the show as long as it goes through. So if you called and it hasn't been answered, then it might just be because your call didn't go through, so you could try calling back again. But thanks everyone for being here, and I will see you next time. Bye. It made it all the way through.